Hey everybody, Mr. Morel here, and today in this video we are finally gonna do it. We are gonna find out how to find the inverse matrix. We've been working on this for several weeks, lots of steps. This isn't even our goal with matrices. Like, our goal is to solve a system of equations using matrices, but we need an inverse to do that. So we're going to end this unit by finding the inverse, and next unit we're going to finally show you exactly how we use this inverse to solve a system of equations. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. This is going to be a weird one, but just to remind you, here's our goal. We're trying to find the inverse matrix so that when I multiply these two matrices together, I get 1, 0, 0, 1. And so far, we haven't quite been able to do it, but today we will. All right. First thing we did in our last lesson is we learned about something called the determinant. Remember, the determinant is a number that tells us, does an inverse exist? And it is going to help us find the inverse. So to find the determinant, it's A times D minus B times C. So we already found the determinant of this one, just as your reminder. 1 times 4 is 4. Why am I using yellow? I don't know. And then 2 times 3 is 6. 4 minus 6 is the number -2. Now that number is not 0, so there is an inverse. If the determinant had been 0, there would be no inverse. Okay, we'll talk more about why that is in just a second. So there's your reminder there. If the determinant is 0, the inverse does not exist. Now, rather than having you discover the inverse, this is so wonky, there's just no way. I'm going to tell you, I think I have this in 3 steps, how exactly you find an inverse. Okay, so I'm going to use the A, B, C, D matrix to help us get there. Here's your first step. First step, find the determinant. Number 1, if that's 0, you don't even have to continue. You would just say, does not exist, like there is no inverse. But we're going to need this number later, so we're going to start by finding the determinant. That's always step 1. Step 2, you're going to take the upper left corner and the bottom right corner, and you're going to swap those. So you could see in the original one, it was A in this corner and D down here. We're actually going to take those two and flip them. Okay, that's step number 2. Oh, this is going to be 4 steps. It doesn't matter. Step number 3, the other 2 corners, we're going to change their signs. So if they were positive, they're going to become negative. If they were negative, they're going to become positive. So we flipped the first 2 corners, like their positions, and then the other 2 corners, we're going to switch their signs. And then step number 4 is this is the technical version of it. We're going to scale by the number 1 over the determinant. There's an easier way to think of that step, but this is kind of the official way, so I wanted to at least say it. I think an easier way to say that is to just take each number and divide it by the determinant. So I know this looks like a lot here. Oh, I just wanted to get my highlighter. Let me get my highlighter for you guys. This kind of looks a little overwhelming, but you can see the D, negative B, negative C, and A. What we're doing is we're just taking each of those numbers and dividing it by the determinant. And at the end, this is your inverse matrix, which I'm guessing you're thinking, what just happened? Let's do that with numbers instead of letters. Okay, so we're going to go with real numbers, and let's use our 1, 2, 3, 4. So first step, find the determinant. We've done this 100 times already. The determinant of this matrix is -2. Step number 2, we're going to flip, in this example, the 1 and the 4. They're going to swap positions. Step number 3, we're going to change the signs of the other 2 numbers. So this becomes a -2 and a -3. And if you remember right, we kind of modified step 4. We're going to divide each of those numbers by the determinant. So let me grab a blue pen here. So 4 divided by -2 is going to be the number -2. -2 divided by -2 is going to be the number 1. -3 divided by -2, use a calculator if you need it, is going to be 3/2. And 1 divided by -2 is the number -1/2. It's not pretty, but that is the inverse, the one that we've been looking for. It's -2, 1, 3 halves, negative 1 half. Now, I'm going to guess that you're like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm going to prove it to you, and hopefully you're going to help me out. So maybe have a calculator on hand. Let's multiply these and see if we get 1, 0, 0, 1. So I'm going to use my multiplying trick. I'm going to drag this down. Let me go ahead and set up my answer matrix. It should be right here. I've got plenty of space. Okay, so first things first, to find this number, we're going to start outside and work our way in. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2 plus, this is an easy thing to forget. If you're multiplying, you're going to add stuff after you multiply. To find the determinant, we subtract. So whatever you need to do to remember that, do that. Okay, use your calculator. 2 times 3 over 2 is the number 3. So negative 2 plus 3 is 1. That's a good start. We know we needed a 1. All right, let's find this number over here. 1 times 1 is 1. Plus 2 times negative 1 half. That's, oh, sorry, not 0. That's negative 1. 1 plus negative 1 is 0. All right, this number right here. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Now use a calculator to check me. I made mistakes before, but 4 times 3 halves is positive 6. So negative 6 plus 6 is 0. And finally, this number right here, 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times negative 1 half is negative 2. Check me if you need. 3 plus negative 2 is the number 1. So it took us like 3 weeks to get there, but this is the inverse of this. They're inverses because when you multiply them together, you get the identity matrix, which is 1, 0, 0, 1. Woo, we did it, and it's crazy. Let's practice some more. Okay, so if you want to pause the video right here, I've got the steps all laid out for you. Probably do pause the video and try one on your own. I'm going to just go ahead and start because you can pause if you need. Step number 1, I need to find the determinant. So that's going to be 7 times negative 1 is negative 7. And remember, the determinant, we subtract. When we multiply, it's adding. So minus negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. 7 minus negative 6 is a negative 1. So that's the same as adding a positive. Okay, so this does have an inverse because that's not the number 0. So I'm going to just write that down right here. Okay, let me do a little bit of erasing here. Okay, next step, step number 2. I'm going to flip the 7 and the negative 1. Swap those positions. Step number 3, we're going to change the signs of the other two numbers, but keep them in place. So positive 3 and negative 2. Step number 4 is I need to divide each of these numbers by the number negative 1. So negative 1 divided by negative 1 is going to become a positive 1. 3 divided by negative 1 is negative 3. 2 divided by negative 1 is a positive 2. And 7 divided by negative 1 is negative 7. So the inverse of 7, negative 3, 2, and negative 1 is the matrix 1, negative 3, 2, negative 7. It's so weird. So don't just trust me on that. Let's actually test it out, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and drag this down to multiply. Let me go ahead and set up my answer here. I want to test this out. It's always good to check. Okay, so to find this number, 7 times 1 is 7, plus negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. So 7 plus negative 6 is 1. All right, this number right here. 7 times negative 3 is, what is that, negative 21? Plus negative 3 times negative 7 is positive 21. So negative 21 plus 21 is 0. All right, down here, 2 times 1 is 2. Negative 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. 2 plus negative 2 is 0. And finally, let's see this spot right here. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Plus negative 1 times negative 7 is a positive 7. Negative 6 plus 7 is a 1. Don't ask me how these tricks work. I mean, I could explain it to you, but that was like, it's serious college level stuff. But that really is how you find an inverse. Okay, we're going to do 2 more examples. One more example together. Oh no, just one more example. So pause the video. I'm going to have you find the inverse of this. I'm not going to go through the steps again. If you need to go through the steps, you can rewind. Hopefully you wrote those 3 steps down. Go ahead and find the inverse of this. Pause, and then when you're ready, unpause, and I'll see you here. Okay, so I'm kind of sitting here awkwardly, assuming you paused, then you unpaused. Okay, the correct answer for this one, it's an ugly one. The correct answer for this one was you should have gotten negative 1/3, positive 4/3, negative 2/3, and 5/3. Okay, so that's the answer you should have gotten. Go back and track your mistakes if you got some. And I'm going to show you that that actually is the right answer, even if it's super duper ugly. So let me set up my answer right here. Just like we did before, to find this number, 5, you could use your calculator if you need. I just have lots of practice. 5 times negative 1/3 is negative 5/3, plus negative 4 times negative 2/3 is going to be a positive 8/3. Add these together, and you're going to get 3/3, which simplifies to be a 1. Next, find this number. 5 times 4/3 is 20/3. Negative 4 times 5/3 is going to be a negative 20/3. So positive 20/3 and negative 20/3 is the number 0. Next up, this one right here. 2 times negative 1/3 is negative 2/3. Negative 1 times negative 2/3 is going to be a positive 2/3. Negative 2/3 plus 2/3, that's 0. And finally, this number over here, oh, I need to use purple. This number right here is 2 times 4/3, that's going to be 8/3, plus negative 1 times 5/3 is negative 5/3. 8 plus negative 5/3 is 3/3, which when we simplify that down is the number 1. So I know that is the inverse of this because when I multiply them together, I get the identity. All right, let me just go ahead and put this back on our steps screen just one more time. Okay, so these are your steps right here. You need to know these steps. Whatever you need to do to remember those 4 steps, do it. Okay, those are your steps right there. And that's how you find an inverse. Next unit, we're going to use an inverse to find the solutions to systems of equations. I know that that sounds really intense. The nice thing is, your graphing calculator can't really do systems of equations in any way, except like if you graph them. But it can do matrices. So we're going to learn more about that later. All right, that was it for this video. We will see you later. Have a good night. Bye.